Hello, friends. So throughout the duration of my extensive research into different camera systems, diving into different forums, subreddits, and Facebook groups, there was one constant that kept popping up, and that's that everyone hates each other. Okay, so that might be a bit hyperbolic, but there is definitely no shortage of animosity directed at anyone who dares criticize their favorite camera brand. I mean, honestly, I expected some of that vitriol directed towards me in my last couple of videos when I was discussing trying to choose a camera brand, but apparently my YouTube audience is pretty chill. Although the range of comments from me coming across as fact-based and unbiased, thanks Screen Fiends, to me being a blatant shill for Sony, to me being a hater of Sony for undermining their color science is a bit amusing. Now obviously fanboying has been around since way beyond 2024 and will continue to be a thing until the Great Enlightenment of 2182. But the thing that's been weird about this is that a lot of the arguments have been infighting within camera brands. This almost always consists of some user saying, "Hello, corporate overlord, we wish we had this thing." And then a rush of other users saying, "Why do you need that thing? That thing is complete overkill. Real pros don't use that thing. If you want that thing, find a different corporate overlord." And it's that second set of people that I just don't understand. The people who are actively rooting for the stagnation of the camera brand they're apparently oh so invested in. The response for someone wanting their Kinefinity camera to be able to shoot RAW, which Kinefinity advertised that their cameras would be able to do and continue to advertise on their website, should not be met with, "Why do you even need RAW?" Someone wanting a firmware update to their A7S III to keep up with the FX3 should not be getting responded to with, "Well, you should have predicted the future and guessed that an FX3 would eventually exist." A Blackmagic user hoping that future cameras will have autofocus is inevitably going to be met with, "It's a cinema camera, bruh. Learn to pull focus like a real filmmaker," completely ignoring the fact that quote-unquote real filmmakers have dedicated focus pullers and that every other prosumer camera is currently making strides in autofocus technology, including RED of all camera companies. Now, if you are pushing back against the idea of Blackmagic implementing autofocus into their future cameras because the R&D required for that is going to inevitably raise the prices, fair enough, but a lot of those same brand defenders are usually the same ones that push back against the Blackmagic users that want a box-style camera by asking them, "Why do you need it?" Unless you have genuine concern for someone else's wallet, when someone asks for a feature, can we please stop responding to that with, "Why do you need it?" The universal answer to this question is, I don't need it, I want it, because it's either going to make things better, make things easier, or I just think it's cool. This applies to not just cameras, but all things in life. Why do you want autofocus? Because it makes things easier. I hope that got me. Goddamn Panasonic. Why do you want cheese on that burger? Because it makes it so much better. Why do you want to marry Ana de Armas? I just think she's cool. Obviously, there's value in making do with what you have, and oftentimes filmmakers in particular have a problem with consuming for the sake of consuming. But if somebody's educated on the topic and still wants a specific feature, there is zero value in you telling them not to want that feature. Now, if you're content with your camera and you think it's perfect the way that it is, that's actually really cool. But that does not mean that everybody else has to be. Obviously, I get that humans are inherently tribal, and despite what a lot of people say, it's perfectly normal to develop an emotional attachment to your camera. But when you start blindly defending camera companies, you start actively rooting against your own interests. Consumers win when companies remain innovative and competitive, meaning that when you keep their feet to the fire, you're either going to get better tech or lower prices. And keeping their feet to the fire really just amounts to complaining, really. Panasonic has awful autofocus and you're thinking about switching to Sony? Bam, the S5 II. Canon won't allow third parties to compete with their overpriced RF lenses and all of a sudden that new Nikon is actually looking pretty good? Bam, Canon opens up the RF mount. Sony won't give the FX3 shutter angle or the A7S III anything. Maybe Panasonic is worth looking into. Bam! Those things. Acknowledging cameras' faults and limitations needs to be welcomed and encouraged. Gerald Undone and Philip Bloom voicing their frustrations over Sony's lack of firmware updates has done far more for Sony users than any amount of obsequious, "please notice me senpai" pandering will ever do. So in summation, keep complaining, be loud, be proud, not ask what you can do for your camera company, but what your camera company can do for you, I guess. There, now that I've sabotaged any chance of working with any of these camera brands in the future, welcome to the channel. So I expect my videos moving forward are going to be a lot less ranty, but this is something that's just irked me while I've been trying to look for a new camera system to upgrade to. Now, if you're curious about which camera I decided to invest in moving forward, well, I haven't made a decision yet, ironically enough. But I have been able to borrow the S5 IIX, which I'm currently shooting on right now. I've had it for about a month, and I've been shooting a project on it that I'm kind of excited to share. But I have narrowed down my options to 3 separate cameras. The Sony FX3, of course, like everybody else, the Fujifilm X-H2S, and the S5 IIX, because those 3 cameras meet my current needs of portability, image quality, and autofocus. I'm actually hoping to get an FX3 in pretty soon and an X-H2S, but I don't live near a rental house, and I don't know anybody that happens to own one, so that's a lot less likely. So yeah, moving forward, I'll be doing gear reviews and comparisons with a strong emphasis on being as authentic and unbiased as possible, which is actually a big deal to me in this ever-increasing landscape of paid promotions and brand ambassadors, along with just general discussion around filmmaking. And maybe some more rants, who knows. So if that interests you, consider subscribing. But if that does not interest you and you hate my stupid voice and you want to punch me in my stupid face, then please consider not subscribing because you frighten me. I'm gonna go now.
Farewell, friends.